Good morning. I was kind of tired to do it this session yesterday, so I'm gonna do it now while my child is sleeping. And I would rate that information number 2 on your list, and after the safety one, because safety, that's life, okay, and we have to keep them safe. Next is, before you teach autistic children anything, you need address all of their neurological needs. It's just part of them now, and you need to also examine, evaluate, to see what exactly they need, what exactly they seek, and you address that, then you start teaching. So what we have here, we have established fact, and I already had one person who confirmed that what I'm saying is the truth. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm a parent, but might as well be better than a doctor at this point, because they learn from books, right? They learn from, well, patients, the science. We have real cases here in our hands, and we know more about our children than they do, unless they have a child with autism. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not bragging, I'm just sharing with you, okay? Because I've had doctors who weren't even able to talk, explain things, and I'm constantly engaging with children and adults now that are autistic and sharing. And so what triggered my reason for this video is because I've met one autistic girl. I met her like 3 times already in the park, and as I was getting my child out of the ride, she was getting in, and she recognized me. She was so open, so friendly, because I talked to her, because she wants to be heard, and other people look at her that she's a weirdo. So they want that attention too. They say they don't have communication skills, you know. No, it's just how other people look at them, that's why, okay? But she was so open and so friendly, and so I came back to her because I was getting my child, and there she was, and I said, so you riding that same ride, and do you feel good after that? And she said, actually, yes, I need that. And I see her, you know, I saw her already 3 times in the park, and she's not even from this state. But anyway, so I have a lot of like real data, real information from other, sorry, distraction here. So I have a lot of information, not just my own experience, but I also engage with people that can talk. Many of them can't, and that's why we have to come up with our, gosh, it's crazy, sorry, this is how I live now, too much. There's another one. Anyway, so why I start thinking about this, even because I've got my child tools. Sorry, just so many distractions. I don't have a house now. I'm a bum, and everything is, sorry, please forgive me. Information is coming. Gosh, just wish you knew what I'm going through. But anyway, my child yesterday, I gave him tools in his hands, or rather in his mouth. So I told him to tell me now how many times you want to ride this roller coaster or that roller coaster. And yesterday we went to that Loch Ness Monster, and that's the only ride that does weird stuff, really. The only one probably in many parks, because it does 2 like dead loops, we call it. Like it goes up and down like that twice, and then it makes that a large excuse me, a large spin around like that. And he said 4 times he wanted to ride that thing. I couldn't follow, of course. I just let him go by himself. And then I already knew that there's going to be no other ride that he wants to ride that many times. So I've taken him to a polo chariot, and that goes only up and down thing, that kind of motion. He needed only 2 of those, and then we went to another one, 2, but not 4. So I know he needs that motion going upside down and spinning around. And yes, when he was a baby, he tried to help himself. This is what they do. It's not something, it's not abnormal. It is actually normal, and it is normal to them. Sorry, I have a lot of distraction here. Cats, God. And he would just spin around himself constantly. Then he started tiptoeing, and we had you know, I did not know much about autism, and not to mention, I don't have a clue. God, get out. Sorry, please forgive me. This is how I live now, and I'm still trying to be helpful. So don't give up, okay? Even when you're at the death row, don't give up on these kids. Anyway, please forgive me. It's just, this is the reality, the things that you don't see behind the scenes. This is how I live now. But so he did all these vestibular motions, like spinning and walking tiptoe, and and he couldn't tell me this. He could not ask me for things. He could not explain why he needs this. I had to just watch. I had to watch and see what he's doing the most, what he's doing the less. Then I started taking him to good doctors, biomedical doctors, because you don't get much help from mainstream doctors. It's just a fact. You've got to believe me, okay? So I did say that they all like water, they like roller coasters, and they like music. Now, and when they do, they're all different to certain degrees. You have to consider that, because every single person is different. Reason, because they're affected differently. But what they are all affected by is actually sensory. We're looking at sensory processing disorder. That is established fact, medical fact, 100%. They have one or the other, or all. And these sensory are unbalanced. Like typical people, they're all pretty much line up. Autistic children, they have an issue. That's why it's called sensory processing disorder. They cannot process sensories the right way, or the correct way, or the appropriate way, whatnot. But what we're looking at, and I'm going to be looking at my notes now, we're going to have 6 sensories. That is visual, and I will go pretty much probably explain. So visual, that would be lights. I would say my child, when he has sensory visual, that more like a staring at items, or he can go like sideways looking. I think that's his visual sensory impairment there. Auditory, many of them do have it, and some of them very, very sensitive to loud sounds, and some of them not. That's why when they're too sensitive, you put those earphones on them to kind of like help them to override, because that's pain. If it's too loud, I mean, just put a big speaker right next to your ear, you're probably gonna get deaf. They don't need loud sound. They hear, my son can hear, he has a very fine actually hearing. He can hear me a mile away. So I know, and I also know that some sounds make him respond differently than the others. So like, let's say drying hands, that would be sensory for him. He would cover ears. And then if it's like a music loud, he probably wouldn't respond to loud music. It's okay, but I still try to kind of keep it, low, because he cannot still tell me that. Next is, third is a tactile. That's it's touch. It's sensitivity to clothes. They have itching, irritation. They're too sensitive. That's why probably giving them a cotton shirt would be a nice thing. Although it depends. Some may have cotton, some may have silk. It just depends what kind of sensory. You're just gonna put that clothes on, put another clothes on, article clothes, and see how they feel. Because if they're gonna try to take that off, more likely it's a sensory issue. You want to give them something else. You want to put something else. Next is number 4 is vestibular. It's a big one. That's moving, balance. This is steaming. That's when they tiptoe, and you see a lot of children doing that when they're babies. And then it's also self-regulatory. That's why they're doing this, because that's what makes them comfortable. And number 5 is gustatory, I guess that's what they call it, and this is for food textures. Now I think I would add oral sensory with that one too, because it's not just textures, it's also pain that they have. on their gums, you know. So I would add to gustatory oral sensory here, because it doesn't tell me where that goes if you go Google that. And then the sixth and the last one is olfactory, that's smell. So some of them can smell very well, and some of them don't smell anything. And remember that video when I said that I tried to teach my child not to poop in his pants, and I thought that smell's gonna do something. He didn't care. He wanted like even try. I was like, but he won't eat food. So see how different that is and unbalanced, that just this olfactory, the smell sensory. So I come up with my, I've got a lot of notes here, you know, but I've come up, this is what I did. I never done that before. I always thought about this though, but I've done this yesterday, and pretty much taken all these factors, all these sensories into the picture, and I did line them up. And I don't see what I'm saying here because I need to show this, but there's my son, okay, and I'm giving him a scale -10, 0, +10, the scale on a grade 10, right? And if you look at this that way, I hope it shows up. If you look at it that way, look, this is at the 0, you would have a typical person at the 0 with visual, auditory, tactile, vestibular, gustatory, olfactory. So the typical person would be at the 0, balanced. Autistic children or adults, they would go in ranges. It could be on the minus side, it could be on the plus side. And this is how I, you know, basically labeled or graded my own child here, where his sensory is unbalanced. I'm gonna hold this and I'm gonna have to look at it, but this is where we are. And what do you see here? Well, we are close to 10 for tactile and vestibular. Yeah. Now, that's his sensory impairment here we're talking about. And while I have this handy, I will go over those sensories once again. With visual, it's not really painful. They just do some things like staring at items or glaring, or, you know, don't look at you, whatnot. You just allow them to do it. Nothing can be done, in my opinion. So all strictly my opinion, okay? Now, when they have auditory, tactile, and vestibular, that one you can address and provide. They seek in that. I would only separate auditory, because it has, you know, association with some pain. You may want to either earphones or like a soft music, you know, something. So, and then some, I have one autistic adult boy here walking around, and he plays like, you know, like Britney Spears and stuff, you know, very loud, had earphones, sometimes no. So he likes that, but some may not, you know, they may just need less beat, less volume, you know, that kind of things. You just have to adjust. You just, if they don't talk, you put it on and see how they respond. Some may just even like it and may even hold their ear heads like that, and because they want that, you know. You just have to try and see how you're gonna go. But vestibular and tactile, these are the two that you can actually provide them. Yeah, it's you know, easy to do. And then we have gustatory and olfactory. Okay, that one you just have to desensitize that, and that would include oral sensory. You just have to do it over time, slowly, gradually, so you don't hurt them. Like my child was receiving feeding therapy for a year, 2 consecutive months every day, and then, you know, 3 times a week for a year. So desensitize would work. If you do it basically more frequently, more likely they will start responding better. Now, when you address the tactile, auditory, vestibular, and I already said auditory, that's music, you know. It could be painful to some, it could be pleasant to others, but they all like music. And this is how I teach my child. I use music as a foundation, because that's another professor told me that try to teach him that if he likes it, that's your thing. You start there, and that's how we actually learn ABC alphabet, right, and everything else thereafter. Now with tactile sensory, like my child, for example, he's very high on that scale of 10. He's on a plus side. He needs it to the point, I know already that I observed him one time. He fell down and he hurt himself, bump on the head, big sound when he fell, and yet no cry. And that started make me think, like, why won't he cry? Because I would probably cry, because it was pretty loud. And then I figured he has a very high pain endurance. He can take a lot more pain than other people, than I do, for example. Like, he can take a lot more pain, but there's also a level too. But that's kind of off. He should be crying when he so I know he's hardcore, and he needs that tactile input to make him feel better. And that would be, when you talk tactile, it could be different things. Actually, it depends. You just have to try it all, because that's what I did. I tried them all. That could be tight clothes. Some may like, some may don't. We actually did like. They also have inflatable vests. Some may like weighted blankets nowadays. My son kind of didn't care much. He would just lay because he thought he needed to. But some may do like it, and you just put on their shoulders, or you just cover them with that. They may like it, because that's safety for them, right? And it's also pressure, and it's evenly spread out throughout the body. Let's see. Trampolines. I have not seen a child that is not physically disabled would not like trampoline. And we had that baby trampoline, then we transitioned to a bigger trampoline. He always liked that. Okay. Float and regular slides. That's a different kind of motion. That's also, I would say, probably vestibular more. But yeah, try the slides. And that helps a lot. Let's see, compressing items in hammock. I guess I say that right. Hammock. This is it looks almost like a sack, and they just sit in there, and you can also give them that overall tightness, compression, and then you also rock them. I think this is almost like a going to sleep lullaby thing for them that you may want to try. Usually occupational therapists have that in their offices there. So, and there's one other thing I was gonna say. Okay, massage, hugs. Some will tolerate, some will not like that, but that's where you have that -10 +10. Either way, they may like it, they may not. My son likes it, so I need to give him more hug, more pressure. He likes that from me, obviously, to calm down, and helps him to kind of self-regulate. So, but instead of him self-regulating, I'm regulating him. And yeah, that's that's why he responds so well through massage to me. And the final thing on the tactile would be a pea pod. If you've seen those, when I bought mine, it was so expensive 10 years ago. But it's a pea pod. It looks basically like inflated boat. And you put him in there, and he's now you address him too. Actually, he's squeezed, that's tactile, in that boat, and then he can rock in it. That's vestibular. So this is really, you addressing two things in that one item. What else? Yeah, with vestibular, I'm going back because it's distraction ongoing. We had like a rocking horse for him. And he was rocking that horse since he was like really baby. If he needed to rock, he would go and sit on that horse for hours. And then I started asking my dad, I was like, what are we gonna do when he's 19? There is no horse for adults, unfortunately. How are we gonna deal with that? And then we would transition to bush gardens now. But back then, he was already rocking that horse for decades. He broke it a couple of times. He cried when it broke, and we tried to fix it, but that's the motion he was seeking, front and back, and he's still doing that. I just substitute that behavior with the horse. that is more functional, more appropriate for him, and for other people to see. So yeah, the horse. And then we also had steppers. These are occupational therapy product that they have, which pretty good. It's a steps. They made like, one is bigger, taller, whatnot, lower, and I think there's a set of 6 of those, and you just lay them on the ground and they just keep walking. That's basically replacing tiptoe, because they want to go up in the like in the air. That's seeking that extra balance, sensory, when they're a little bit higher. That's why roller coasters make them feel it. And yeah, those steppers were good because he would just like to step on them, and that's how we would replace the tiptoe behavior eventually, because he did that all. Now, something I just kind of don't know, but they also line up items, like you would have, he was baby, he did that, then he stopped, and you put one this and then, and they all kind of lined up. I don't know where that would go, probably visual sensory, but it's also kind of routine. They like them line up in specific order, and that transition, that behavior is kind of transition later when he has now DVDs and they all line up. Okay, well, that's actually a good thing, because they like routine, and that means organization. They're very well organized. Let's see, did I leave anything? So I was gonna say, I did say about, so visual, you would just let it go with little accommodations. Gustatory, that's oral and olfactory. Those are 3 things that you want to synthesize. There's no way around it, and that one takes years to do. But you cannot let them go without brushing their teeth, because you're gonna have issues. Like with you, gingivitis has gotten better, but their pain. There's also cavities coming. How are you gonna deal with that when they start getting tooth cavities? So you still need to kind of work on that. But the other 3, that auditory, tactile, and vestibular sensory, you do want to address. You are able to provide them. This is what they need. That helps them to calm down. And when you get them calm, that's when you can come and actually teach them something. Because just imagine, this is just an example. Like if I'm sitting here and I have my wrist is itching, and I know it's itching, and I'm not allowed to help myself to scratch that spot, and somebody's coming on top of that and says, show me red, show me green, I was like, I just want to say, hell no, I'm done. What I need is this, and that's what I'm trying to show you. That's what I need. This is how they feel. Yeah, that's why it's very important. Just observe and do this. See how that works for you. Figure out what they do, where they at. Some you can address. Some you just have to work hard, and some you just have to let go. And then again, when you're in community, that's why I let my child to go crazy there, because when we walk around from place to place, I just let it go. I don't care. He's a member. That means he's like everyone else in there. He likes it so much. So find an amusement park, people. Take him there. We have at Busch Gardens, we have a Sesame Street thing, and they have roller coasters, water rides, all kinds of spins, up and down, then twisting. These are the motions that they seek, and when they're little, they tell you that by doing so, by spinning around themselves, by tiptoeing. This is the signs. This is what they seek, and more likely they will seek it throughout their life. So that's why I want to take him to the park, amusement park, good one, and see where they want to spend most time. And that behavior eventually transitions. You just have to be consistent and take him more frequently in there, and that will go away. But yeah, then it's going to be a replacement, but it's going to be appropriate replacement too, and you will be among people, right? So don't keep them away. They need to be exposed to the real world, and If I missed something, probably not, but I'm sorry about instruction. You just have to understand like how it is nowadays for me. So it's 25 minutes video, and yeah, give them what they need and then start teaching. Very important. Right after safety. Talk to you soon.